All right, so welcome to the 2501 Aspen Updates in an Instant. We hard to believe it's a new year already. We did record some of this last week for people to get a head start on testing, but wanted to go through it all again. As always, jumping down to the bottom, I want to thank all of our contributors. We've had contributors from lots of different places. And that's testing, documentation, development, um, everything helps. Thanks everybody for doing that, and thanks to sponsors of new development. Obviously, we couldn't do that without you. Um, there's a bunch of stuff that I won't go over today. There's bug fixes and that kind of thing, things that are hard to demo. I'll try to call out the highlights. A couple of highlights that I did want to call out to start up here. So there were some updates for Hoopla as well as Boundless and Access 360 to kind of optimize some of those processes, as well as utilize some new APIs. So some good things to do there. Also wanted to call out some libkey integration updates. So phase one of that was done last month. And there was a phase two as well that is looking more at EBSCOhost and EBSCO EDS. So while I'm here, I'm also going to talk about another thing that's not all that exciting to anybody other than developers. Aspen Lita was broken out into its own GitHub repository, so it is still under the main Aspen Discovery area. And now, in addition to Aspen Discovery, there's Aspen Discovery, Aspen Lita. That just helps to make it a little bit easier to find. So good stuff there. And speaking of Lita, let's go into Lita. All right, so here we've got Aspen Lita. This is looking at a Gmilks version. So one of the big things that I'm sorry, this is not Gmilks. I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is Wild's version. So last time we had talked about updates to doing local ILL for Wild using the books by mail functionality within Symfony. That functionality allows them to place requests, have the titles delivered by mail in order to get things across the state of Wyoming, which is large. So previously we had done all of this work for regular titles, so things that only had one, well, that did not have volumes. So we have now updated so that it will work with volumes. So here we can see, in this case, I am Cheyenne patron, or Laramie County. So we can place a hold on the 2022 edition, which they own, or we can request the 2018. So let's just go ahead and request the 2018. This is running my local emulator. It takes in a little bit sometimes to get going. Yeah, this is Android Studio that periodically takes a little bit to get going. There we go. All right, so we've got our request form, which is similar to what we're seeing in Discovery. We have the ability then to say, like, yes, I will pay any fees and pick a pickup location. It's getting there. Now I've clicked far too many things and it's busy running all of its updates in the background. Yeah, next time we can do iOS. Something like, there we go. Got that box clicked. And we're bringing up our list of locations. There we go. We're going to pick that up in Cheyenne. There we go. We're going to place our request. And it's going. So this is placing the request then within Symphony as a books by mail hold um, on that specific volume. We did also make updates within the account display um, to show additional information within the holds. So showing volumes for holds and some additional information. The volume information will show no matter what ILS you have. So if your ILS has volumes, those holds are now going to show in LEDA for volumes. I'm going to come back to this. So let's move back on to some of the discovery stuff while my simulator keeps going. All right. So back to discovery. So Milwaukee County sponsored some of this. So we have now the ability to add the middle initial. So with Sierra, the first name and last name are stored together in the first name field. It was confusing if you have patrons with the same, at least first initial and last name to differentiate between them. So we added the ability to add a middle initial. So we have new options for that. This currently will only work for cases where the middle name is stored with the first name. So if they're two separate fields, it's not handling that. But we do have the ability now to say, hey, first name, middle initial, last name. And now we see we've got W.A. McFliston instead of just W. McFliston. So cool stuff there. So more on the thing that I was jumping ahead to was multiple pickup locations for a single branch. So the idea here is, and this is working for Polaris. Polaris is the first ILS that we know of that supports this. So here we've got, if we go to our locations, we have the ability to say, I'm going to look at Hookset's public library. Hookset has a couple of different locations in Polaris where you can pick up materials. And these are shown down at the bottom. For Polaris libraries, these automatically import for you as part of the indexing process. So we're going to go ahead and check to say, hey, are there anything? If there are, and it's valid, then we're going to display it. So here we can see we have for Hookset, hold shelf and smart lockers, the code that is used internally, whether or not it's a valid pickup in the ILS, you can override that in Aspen and say, hey, even though smart lockers are available within the ILS, I'm going to uncheck that and say I don't want to allow smart lockers to be used within Aspen. So just a way to say, hey, if only staff are doing that, or if you're in the process of rolling them out, maybe you would wait. The other thing you can do is control the patron type. So for example, if you don't want non-residents maybe to use those smart lockers and you only want adults, or you don't want kids to use them or something, you could restrict it that way. So good things for that to have options on how to use those. The way these work then, so if I'm doing a search for Batman, I can, when I place a hold, so here we can say, we're going to place a hold on Batman The Dark Knight Returns. It's going to ask me where I want it picked up. I'm going to say Hooksett. That's my home library for this patron. And then we can choose your pickup location. So here we can say hold shelf or smart lockers. So I'm going to say smart lockers, and we will submit that hold request. So successful. We're number one in the list, and then we can go to our titles on hold and see where that was placed. So here we can see that that is at the Hooksett Public Library, smart lockers. We can change these pickup locations. So we could say, no, I'd actually like to pick that up at, say, Bedford and Bedford's children room if we wanted. So that is an option as well. There are also preferences for, so in my preferences, oh, so here it's refreshing to show that I did make that change. So now it's at the Bedford Public Library Children's Room. And then we can go to our preferences and we can see here. So we've got our preferred pickup branch as well as our preferred pickup location that could get changed as well. So if I wanted to switch, I could. And so I could switch to Bedford's children room as my preferred pickup location. So good options there. This functionality is all available for 2501. In 2502, all of this functionality will be coming to LIDA as well. So you'll be able to place sublocations and place holds using sublocations, which will be really cool. So I know this has been talked about a lot by Polaris Libraries, so thank you to GMilks for sponsoring that work. It's really cool. Did some more work with MCFLIS with Milwaukee County on indexing subfield C of the 100, 700, and 800. So this will pull in additional information about the author to kind of divide people up. So if we search for Sade, we get Sade, the music artist, and then we get the Marquis de Sade, which are obviously two very different artists and authors. And now you can distinguish between those. So that works everywhere within Aspen where those are showing. We also, based off the catalogers meeting, did some work on Yodos. So there was an edge case where there were a couple of titles for Kyoto that were published by the city of Kyoto that showed up as Yodos. So we fixed that to where those would just be Yodos. Some similar changes for Tonys. We didn't see any cases where this was a problem, but just to be more specific, we're looking at that. So we've got our Tonys and added a new Wazoodle format for those records. So all kinds of brand new things coming out that are fun to do. And we talk about those in the catalogers meeting. So then we also did some work to not show subfield 1 for subjects. I don't have a great example of that, but those are just hidden now so that you won't see the subfield 1. Those are just information that is relevant to cataloging, but not to the general public. For MCFLIS as well, we made some updates to Syndetics, and specifically Syndetics Unbound. So what was happening before is within a consortium, you could have a Syndetics account that did not allow you to differentiate well between catalogs. So basically all Syndetics links would go back to the consortium. So this fixes it to where if I'm in a local instance, click on a different title. So say I click on Bad Liar from within the consortial view, I'm going to go to the consortia for that search. And if I click on that from, this is the Cudahy, I'm going to butcher that name, Cudahy library. And if we click on the same thing, we're going to go to their instance as well. So a good way for people to stay in the correct catalog. The way you set that up is within Syndetics, you can create different profiles, and then those get attached within Aspen. So uh, great functionality there. Then the last thing I want to talk about is some user list updates. So we touched on this at one of the community meetings, and this was something that we've been talking about with Arlington. So kuda hey. Um, yeah. Um, so what we added was two new facets to list search results. We added a added in the last and an updated in the last. So the idea here is that if you're doing a list of searches or if patrons are searching, um, we can say, hey, I only want to look at things that have been added in the last month or so. So here I can see here's our vegetarian cooking and everything barbecue titles. Or maybe some of these don't get updated real frequently, and I just want to look at the new things that have been updated. So I can say, in this case, in our example, most things are getting updated, but here we can search for things updated in the last week. So there we've got everything that was updated in the last week. So all of our New York Times things got updated. Um, so cool stuff there. We can also do different sorting. So if we're saying, let's get rid of that search. So here we've just got a regular best match search. I didn't search for anything, so um, I could have, but here we can also sort by date added. So we can say, okay, I added the barbecue thing, uh, the barbecue list this week. I added vegetarian cooking last week, and the New York Times got it added a while back. Um, and then we can also sort by when it was updated as well. So that just switches the first couple. So cool functionality for libraries as they go forward and have lots of lists. So like Arlington's got, I think, thousands, at least hundreds and thousands of lists that they keep up to date. So good ways for those libraries uh, to see everything and for patrons to find things. All right. I think that's all for now.